Hello, everybody. This is Love from Above with your Sibling Spirit Guides. I'm Maureen, and this is my brother.
Hi, everyone. This is Brian.
And this podcast, we share channelings we receive from star beings, ascended masters, and occasionally our ancestors. And today's topic is what scientists have gotten wrong or what they're not sharing with us. So, Brian, you want to kick this one off?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a number of different topics, and like you said, so some of these relate to something that scientists have wrong, or others are something that they're know about that they're just not sharing with us. So, yeah, this is a little different topic. So there's a lot of things that we've been given about historical figures in time and our true nature of our government and political figures and all sorts of things that we really haven't delved into, but just to know Maury and I are working on compiling these channelings in a book, and I just thought maybe it's time to sort of delve into some of these other subjects. So this one is I compiled all these similar threads about scientists. So the first one is about string theory. Now, let's just also mention that, you know, we're not scientists. We're just passing on uh, the message here, right? And so, um, I'm not an expert. In fact, I've read some books on string theory, but I'm not even going to go into what that is. I had something pulled up, but I'm not seeing it now. So anyway, um, they said they wish us to examine a unifying principle known as string theory, and that the numeral equation is not fully correct. Now, I pulled up this equation, and it was more is something that our dad would have written some of his books. I had no idea what it meant, but it says it is best that your so-called scientists have attempted. I love that so-called scientists. That's a
A lot
slam.
of respect, a lot of respect going
Yeah,
on
yeah. And then they said we have attempted to provide useful information, but they are resistant to a call. Because you know how science people they're very scientific focused. They don't believe in any, you know,
there.
sort of out spirits or any type of um guidance from above. They would not, I'm sure, go for that sort of stuff. So anyway, that was not too much on this one. That was just the first one. So that's one that scientists have wrong. I don't know exactly what the revelation for that is. What any thoughts on that one, Maureen?
No, but I did look up some YouTube videos on string theory, but that was November 28th. And as you said, this is not our forte, and it is totally drifted out of my brain. But the next one that you've pulled up is something that I absolutely remember. I can, it's like people remembering where they were when JFK was assassinated or 9/11. Like I specifically remember when I got this information. So do you want to go over that one?
Sure. So the next one is the number of planets circulating your planet has increased as a geoforce has added tremendous impact to this, and they give some unknown word rotation. So this is one where, you know, the scientists, it says this seismic shift is noted by your scientists. However, they're hesitant to report the new findings. So very interesting. Yeah, I remember this too. I remember was it one or was it multiple planets? I don't remember. Does any more detail on this that you recall?
Well, and I want to go over the last thing that they said. We find it curious that the new and changing is underreported to keep the status quo. So for everyone listening, like when I channel this, like I am the empty vessel, I'm pulling it in, and a lot of times I don't remember it. So later that day, I was in the gym and I could picture the whole gym. It was a gym in the Hilton, Bahrain, And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I mean, how could there be a new planet? And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was accurate. And the day before, NASA had announced a new planet in our solar system. And also, they had known about it for 10 years, but just decided to report it like that week. So I was, oh my God, like this, when I first, listened to it, I said, that cannot be right. I mean, how could we have another planet? And then, like you said, Brian, they said also that there could be a number of other planets that, could be coming forward. So yes, we got the news first from the star beings who channel through us. How crazy is that?
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Um, so the next two are a little lengthier, and so let me just talk about the next one. So I have always believed like in school you're taught like the Big Bang Theory, and it sounds like someone just making that as their theory. It didn't never really resonated with me, and that's sort of what the next one is. It says the creation of Earth was not a random event. So it says we instruct that multiple timelines do exist. However, the central focal points which anchor your realities, there are central focal points which anchor realities. I just thought I mentioned that because we've read some books about, multiple timelines and timeline shifting and all sorts of things like that. But it says the creation of the planet was not a random event, not the Big Bang that your scientists discuss. Though a Big Bang may have occurred, it was not random. There is no such thing. And this is the quote I like is this, even the flower that you squash beneath your foot as you walk on the grass has grown specifically for a unified purpose. Um, so yeah, they made it clear that everything is done, everything that was created was done for a specific purpose, and everything is planned down to the T, and nothing is random in life. Um, what do you think?
Yeah. And this actually goes to this what we're going to be talking next week too, which is the original history of Eve. Um, and again, it's much with regards to this, where everything is planned and has an intention. They go on to say the planet was formed in a grouping in the outer realms of a quanta devoted to new life forms at the time. The universe is indeed constantly expanding, which provides opportunity for growth. There will be time when we return to the Creator, but such time is not to be feared, but to be welcomed. So yeah, it's something that definitely resonates with me as true, that if the flower that we step on was grown for a specific purpose, then we were not just randomly, a bit of stardust that blew. I don't even know how to explain the Big Bang, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So this definitely resonates as true with for me. So it's just interesting. I've said to, for those of you who are listening, I've said to Brian just recently, like I hope to live to see the day where like what children are taught in school is something that is really the truth, as opposed to a lot of what is taught now. Not, so the real history of the earth would be something that would be really important.
yeah. I don't know. It's funny. The more and more I learn, as we were just talking about, like the stuff that I would think was like, conspiracy theories and just crazy people think, the more and more I find out those people are actually true, they are actually right about a lot of stuff. And the stuff that you're taught in school is not really correct. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, or just, I was saying to Brian, like just the power of manifestation, just to learn how the laws of manifestation, I mean, how important is that? I mean, and it's easy peasy, but yeah. So my goal is I want to live to see that day where that's universal knowledge and everybody knows it. And but until then, shall we continue with the next one, Brian?
Right, right. So the next one is around the tilt of the earth and things like that. So it says, we come forth with knowledge about the orbital aspects of your lovely planet. How nice. Um, the tilt of your planet, which causes the precession of the equinoxes, is indeed a unusual characteristic that is rarely considered. It has existed for so long, however, that natural rotation is not to have such a degree of wobble. And this imperfection has been accessed by earlier civilizations to access the portal. So it's, I guess there's a seam in our skies that allows intrusion from other beings, and this portal is well recognized as your people, is the matrix point of view as the Milky Way. So I know you wanted to talk about that a little bit more, Maureen.
Well, yeah, I know that that's true because I think I've mentioned on this podcast before one of the most significant mystical events I ever had was in the Sahara Desert. I slept out in the desert next to some camels just underneath the skies, and I was up all night, and all these beings came and communicated with me, and they came out of the Milky Way, every single one of them. And I watched all of this streaming out of the Milky Way. And if you look at the Milky Way, it does look like a portal. Like it's like ocular shaped. And let me tell you, I watched all night long as stuff and people and beings were streaming out of it. And so I absolutely know for 100% personal experience that it is a portal.
Yeah, yep. Um, so they go on to talk about how the equinox is indeed a holy event to be observed on our planet, which, I think in prior times was, and we don't really observe. We're coming up on the equinox, right? And it's not really observed by most people on the planet today, which is sort of interesting. Um, and it says the correct path of connection to the ones above would not require such advanced mathematics without this unusual tilt which exists on your planet today. And it's a scientific no note of the careful planetary course that determines the well-being of all, which we find laughable. It's like ignoring a gaping hole in your thigh and trusting it will heal on its own. These are essential elements of the universe. I'm not clear on that, but did you have any insights on what they're talking about there?
Um, I think they're talking about how most of us, and we've talked about this before personally, like how, and again, we just wish that all of this information was just universal. So like the solar flares that our planet recently experienced, that cause such an unusual anomalies, like, the Northern Lights in Ohio, which is where, we were raised. And I take this is what it's mean. It's like these basics of how our planet moves. The ancients knew it, but we don't know it. And when I travel around the world and go to see these sacred sites, almost every sacred site is lined up with either the solstice or the equinoxes, which is really, really amazing. That Holy of Holies, the light absolutely shines at that, at that exact moment and only that exact moment. And yet we don't have the capacity to do that. And as an example of the scientists, like when you go to, I forget the temple, it was disrupted by the Aswan Dam in Egypt, and this whole consortium of the best scientists in the world came forth under the umbrella of the UN because this temple was going to be flooded, and it was moved, and it had this where the Holy of Holies was lit up with a solstice. And all of the best scientists in the world, when they moved the temple, they were not able to reproduce it. And it's not lined up with the solstice anymore. So that's what I think that they find is laughable, that we have so much knowledge in so many areas, but not in an area that's so important.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, the other thing I thought was interesting, it says the creator beings who worked so hard to develop the original planets thought of the alternate concepts of night and day, winter and summer as a perfect representation of the duality that exists, or should I say existed on this blue planet. So that's interesting. Are they saying duality no longer exists?
Yeah, apparently we've moved past that. Just like we talked, I think last week, we've moved past karma. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that we're now living in a world where everything's divine, complete, and whole.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So they go on to say the tilt was indeed planned, but remained obscured until pointed out to the earlier people. Now we point out the importance of this monumental development within your planetary sphere, so that you may once again take note of such important details. And then they go on to say the answers are readily available on your handheld devices.
Yeah. I saw that and I've been meaning to like, of course, look it up and I haven't, but it's sort of interesting. Of course, everything's available on our handheld devices these days,
Right.
but yeah, so it is super interesting. Not that I grasp it all completely, but I am intrigued and need to dig in this one a little bit more. But it's one that, you know, it's good information from those above. So I'm just glad to be able to share it with you. And then finally, the last one was relatively recently, and it was first they talked about we wish to return to the subject of mathematics. This is indeed the language of your computers. Your scientists have long known the significance of the ability to communicate with a bitonal frequency, which I don't know, like bitonal is like two tones. Um, I tried to research that, but didn't really come up with anything. So I'm not sure what that means, but it's again another thing where I guess scientists are holding back on us a little bit here. I don't another communication method that they're aware of that hasn't been, publicly announced, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I say that Brian and I are really excited that we'll be able to share all of this information with you in a book format so that you can, look at whatever interests you, whether it's the real history of Eve or scientific information or information on ascension or there's such a wide variety of beings who communicate with us and on an equally wide variety of topics. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And so, at first it was a little daunting. I was thinking, how are we going to put this book together? But we got the guidance to just publish it exactly as it was provided to us. So it does make it a little bit easier, but it's still at the sort of a daunting task that we're in the midst of, but we'll don't really have a timeline for that, but it's something that's a work in progress and hope to have that out to you sometime, so that, yeah, everyone can see what the different channels and see all the different information.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for listening. And next week we're going to talk about history, the real history of Eve. And anything else, Brian?
No, thanks everyone. Again, reach out if you have any questions at lovefromabovepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll look to putting out the next podcast next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.